proposal that I'm going to be talking about today is centered around a term, a syllable called dehat. Okay, and there's a certain tendency of certain words getting stuck to you, and either they make you curious or they give you a certain sense of discomfort. And this was one word that stuck to me and has been sticking till now. And if there is anything to be said or to be derived from a conversation I just had 2 days back in Rukroom, in my village with Nikita, and she told me that हम अभी भी सोचते हैं देहात के बारे में कैसे इसको किसी और तरह से सोचा जाए. So if that conversation has to be taken with something, then it's a position where both me and the women there are thinking about. So a useful starting point, because see, dehat is something that doesn't have a discourse of its own. It has a meaning. If you can find it in a Hindi dictionary, you can find it in an English dictionary, and that roughly translates into either the village or the rural. That's the meaning that you get from a dictionary. But it is something that doesn't really have a meaning of its own in that sense. So a starting point can, and starting point that I am using here is the rural discourse. And now the capitalist-centric Orientalist imagination of development will take the rural as something that is a victim of its own structural poverty, its own backwardness, something that needs to come out of that. It will also look at the rural as this evil, something that is traditional, something that is resistant to change, something that is anti-modern in that sense. And it will also look at rural as this utopic understanding, wherein rural becomes this very idyllic sort of a place where, and I think a lot of us would have heard this word, and it's a very simple life there. So broadly, if you look at it, there are sort of like these two categorizations, if I may use the word, that one will talk about everything that is problematic with it, and the other will talk about it in a very utopian and a very romantic sense of it. And so the village that I am in, Rukroom in Jharkhand, is somewhere between these two. It is shameful also of its victimhood, the evil that it is, and it is also in between the certain sense of pride that it has in whatever it is. But there are this very uneasy cusp between these two things, and if you've read the write-up, I have made a certain distinction between Dehat 1 and Dehat 2, and that's for the purposes of just to show a demarcation from where these two are coming from. So Dehat 1 in that sense borrows a lot of its understanding from this rural discourse, and which is why I say Dehat 1 is actually a subset of the rural. It is a part in that whole discourse, and that meaning that Dehat 1 has is actually a derived meaning. It is given to them by the outside in that sense, and that was put very well by Manki Didi when she said that the word is ours, but the meaning is from the outside. So in that sense, the rural, so in that sense, Dehat 1 becomes this thing that has to go away. It has to go along that path of development to become something. It has to become, and the imagination is that it has to become town-like. So it has to be replicated like the nearest town, which is Gumla. So it goes in that direction. So in that sense, it has to go, and its epitaph has sort of already been written. Now, where me and the women in Rukroom are trying to mark a shift is that, can we move beyond the what is of Dehat? Can we, because the point is that the question of what is can also be answered anthropologically by doing a very good anthropological study. You can also answer the question of what is. And a point that Ishra raised, that it can also be done by using autoethnography. So why this? And initially I was in this framework that Dehat 1 is shame and Dehat 2 will be pride. So the imagination in the mind was that I was envisioning a certain movement from the shame part of it to the pride part of it. But now, standing here now, we've come to that decision that it is not really about choosing between shame and pride. It is not about saying that give up the shame and take the pride, or give up the pride and take the shame. It is about imagining a completely other probable, a completely other possible. Which is why this moves from the what is to the imagination of the heart. Can the women in room imagine the heart in that sense? Can they imagine a way of living? Can they imagine praxis? Can they imagine their heart too as praxis? Can they just think about it in terms of a certain way of living only? Can it not lapse into the value-ridden discourses that that are already functional here? And in that sense, can this imagination and can this creation of the heart too, which will then not be a subset of the rural, which will be a contingent particular in that rural discourse, and will also be a response to the rural-urban divide that we all keep trying to break out of it, but somehow are not able to break out of it because it is so ingrained in the imagination, in the consciousness, that it is very difficult to break out of it. And this entire thing has and obviously will go through a number of resistances. Because this cloud, the cloud that it creates is so overpowering that you can't imagine a possibility beyond it. You can't even work through it. And secondly, me being in that space is also a very important part of it, because I am a constant reminder of this cloud. I am a constant reminder of the very place, the very outside that gives that meaning, that reinforces that meaning. So in that sense, my position there is also a very problematic position. How is this imagination or creation going to happen? I am using theatre as the way out of it. Not a way out of it, a way to work through it. So can a play be made about who we are? Can a play be made about this is how we live? Can a play be made in that sense? And can it offer us that possibility of how can we imagine and then create this other future that we are envisioning? And can we say that let's not designate the heart as this bad thing that has to go. Let's try and think about another possibility of looking at the heart. Can that happen? And that, in a nutshell, is what this presentation is about.
Really, very 10 minutes.
They also taken as a bad thing.
My response to this is, I'll take off from something Deep said many years back. When we were trying to think the development practice program, it was not yet formed, and we were having discussions. And Nikita may be remembering many of the discussions were in this room, when a lot of breakups and breakdowns happened. And we used to say, he used to say it actually, he used to say this part, this side of the board. He was not saying that side still, but this side he used to say that this urban-rural divide itself is a trap. And he would also say that my life's question is how to have a habitable rural, not Hoska's village. How to have a habitable rural. And where I connected with the actually, Anjan and I were working on the urban-rural divide from 2002, and we were also trying to argue that this division between urban and rural is a trap. We were of course saying it from another angle, that the division between capital and pre-capital is a trap. So I immediately connected with these actually, because the rural is pre-capital And as you are rightly pointing out, its epitaph is already written. It's always already written. All rural will have to become smart cities. So, and what good are cities? That's another discussion. Okay. New York has the highest incidence of schizophrenia. Now it can't be that all schizophrenics have taken up flight and settled in New York, which is a cosmopolitan town, which is a cosmopolitan city. Most cosmopolitan actually in the US, New York. So can't be that all schizophrenic Latinos, Hispanics, all the ones Trump dislikes have all congregated in New York. So this work in that sense may open that up, Nikita, that it may open up a way of, it's kind of a work that DEFPRAC needs to do all the time, because our work is to imagine a habitable future, which can be rural also. So in that sense, it is a work DEFPRAC needs to do as such. Two questions. One is and a point I am inaugurating, I'll make it a little better when Arun speaks, because I can use him to say it. One is, what is practice? I cook every day at home. Is it practice? I come to AUD every day. I teach in class. Is it practice? I wash dishes. Is it practice? When does one call something practice? This and some of the works that were discussed yesterday. Actually, I'm seeing a kind of an energy in this batch and hope it also bleeds into the next. You reach practice when you practice differently. You don't reach practice when you practice. Then everything is practice. When is something called practice? When is something called an action? When is something called like, so in that sense, everybody practicing is not practicing. It's a very strange phrase I'm making. So to qualify as practice, to qualify as action, to qualify as actioning something, or to qualify as practitioner, you have to do something different. Otherwise it's not practice. Every practice is not practice. Every day we do routine practices. These are practices. Okay. So in that sense, a practice requires a moving away, a critique. Practice without critique is not practice. Practice that either critiques something else or critiques itself is not practice. Okay. So everything is not practice. The Indian government does so many things. Is it practice? No. Because it has no critique. So in that sense, deep statement had a critique. Critique of the existing. So Deep was managing to think practice, define practice. In that sense, these kinds of works then create conditions for practice that I try to move out. Like, when does a group of women practice? Got it? In fact, my question now is, when will something qualify as practice? So Vinayak Sen's work on health was practice because he broke that connection.
The logic of the hospital.
Yeah, not just that, tuberculosis and hunger. He broke the backbone of medicine by doing that. And he put it out in Lancet, actually. That paper we all talk of, it's taught in medical colleges now. Vinayak's paper where he showed hunger and tuberculosis has a connection. And all the Western white thinkers were saying, no, there is no connection between hunger and tuberculosis. Koi connection. Okay. It is that connection that took him to public health. Okay. He is a pediatrician, why did he do public health? So you have to give up something to be a practitioner. Okay, to reach practice. So in that sense, this actually shows us that as you critique the urban-rural divide, you reach practice. Otherwise you don't reach practice. You do something in the rural, it's not practice. You do something in the city, it's not practice. Okay. Now, Nikita, then the question to you is, okay, what will be different? I'm not asking you what will be practice, because that I can sense, kuch karoge. But how will it be different? My worry is this cloud of victim evil utopia, and this is where Anjan and I reached actually. That is where I met Deep. So, that this cloud will be so strong, Gramin Vikas. Okay. Every DM, every collector, okay, and every Didi has been trained in that now, tragically, okay. Everybody says Gramin Vikas. Okay. And I showed you, Tagore never said, Gramin never said Vikas. He never used the term Vikas. He said Punarnirman. I'll recreate the village. Reconstruction. He never used the term development.
In fact, now what we are saying is नई समाज की संरचना.
वो तो और आगे बोल रहा है, making other worlds possible. Okay, so no. So how do the Didis go there? Like we have sort of theoretically sorted it out. What will be the? In fact, I was having this debate with Bhavya when I did that body workshop in Raigad. That all the sophisticated Hegelian theories, Zupankic theories, all the ones we love, little Lacan splashed, capsicum and paneer, ये सब करके, the question I asked, how do I do this with women? How do I do what I can think with the women? But it's actually a coded question to Gautam also. But how do you translate? Okay. And Bhavya was there, I was trying to do the body, and I was doing an Hegelian body actually. But I was trying to do, I was not succeeding fully actually, but there was some energy in the women. So how do you, in fact one question of practice is how do you translate a sophisticated theory, okay, into a bodily activity, into a pedagogic practice, into say a classroom activity we do. So how to translate that? Or can somebody whose point, Shwanima's, right? I was saying the work on the secret, development has secrets. यहाँ नहीं बोला, कहीं और बोला, छोड़.
बोले थे क्लास में, किसी की प्रेजेंटेशन में बोले थे.
Development has secrets. They were not there at that time. So either I didn't say it or they were not there. So in that sense, how to translate it into a women's group that will sit and the group's work.
But wouldn't the first point here will be, and I'm just, and it's not a response, but it's just thinking out loud. When there's actually some sort of a thinking in that sense also going on there, and that's why that conversation day before became very important, because she also doesn't. Mankiti is not saying that I know what different is. I know how to look at the heart differently. She's not saying that, but she's saying me, but I'm trying to think through it. Because one thing that I told her was that in the period I'm not here, why don't you think about it and why don't you write something? If anything comes to your mind about this, why don't you write about it? And she says that I still haven't been able to write because I'm not able to think outside this.
But why are you telling her to write? Why are you not telling her to act?
But wouldn't that
I'm not
also
against
be
writing,
required?
but I'm
But
saying
wouldn't also that be required? If she's not even thinking about that, then the acting part, I'm not very sure how that would come. Because as you rightly pointed out, this is a very overpowering thing. So, and this is just one incident, this is just one person saying this. So, but I also see hope in that this one conversation, that maybe something might happen. And no, I don't know what will happen.
so you'll sit with these women and have discussions.
That was what happened in the second emotion. But again, discussions will only take you to an extent. They only take you here, that this is this. But I think the idea of doing a play or a theatre about, let's just do a play about who we are, what is it that makes the heart for them in that sense, might bring in something else. Because that is a very process thing. It's a very process oriented thing. So one day you sit and talk about something and then again and again and again. So I'm saying that might open something, because this is something that has come from there only. They're like, yeah, let's try and do a play about it. Let's see what happens with this. So they're also with me in that sense that let's see what happens. We also don't know where we'll end, but let's see.
And it will be only women?
As of now, yes. As of now, yes.
See, I'm done.
Just a connected question. Isn't writing also a form of act, one, and can writing in itself can writing itself be an action research?
Yeah, but I'm saying this after that. Like body is also language, writing is also action. ये सब हो गया. अब सोच रहे.
And we can't get stuck at action research as such. Now, what is the question of transformation is very important.
Yeah.
And then we can say that your writing is also transformation. But when you think of a context like Rukru, what does writing as transformation mean there?
That has to.
You know, then
Yeah, I should have used the word transformation. I should not have used the word different. What is different? What is transformative?
No, I got that.
Okay, yeah, I should have used that word. So writing is transformative. Okay. But that too we know. So
But doesn't she provide the answer when she is arguing, you know, and like, I'm a huge fan of her writing style. Dehat has a counter narrative to the discourse of the rural and its synonyms, a discourse that tells a story. And I think the discourse that tells a story that, you know, Nikita put, as the way Nikita actually elaborated here, one that is told and retold, thereby creating a consciousness that is forever constructed for them by the ones who control and write on it. And I think this is where, you know, somewhere she's also answering the question that, you know, you're raising, that then she's not saying that it's only controlled and written by people, but she has a very interesting point here, that is forever constructed for them by the ones who control and write on it, and certainly not by those whose it is in the first place.
So that's why I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is a
that
kind
is-
of phenomenology of things.
Yeah.
Okay. That how do I respond to it? And I can't respond to it because this cloud is at work.
Yeah.
Okay. Every narega will say कि चलो तुम तो गरीब हो, हाँ? तुम्हें 100 दिन का काम दे देंगे.
But then just because this crowd is so overpowering, that also doesn't mean that we can't try. At least try to work.
I won't say that ever. You know that. I won't say that ever.
Nikita, I just wanted a clarification actually. I did not understand or I missed out the point at which you entered theatre. And continuing on what Anup also had said, if practice is not practiced till we do it differently, then what is it to theatre that, like what is their current practice which theatre does differently? Like, you know,
Dance question.
not, not the, I mean, of course there is that play aspect and all those things, but yeah, so I mean, you get what I'm saying, right? What is the current practice and what is theatre doing to that practice that is different?
I get your question because I'm also in this only that.
So, I mean, but do you have some imagination of what that kind of, like where you're going with theatre?
See, as of now, the only imagination that is that let's, in the third immersion, let's just sit and think about what we can perform. And I'm using, and the play just came across because it came across. It came across in discussions, and it was a thing very, people were, women in general were very passionate about. Yeah, let's do something. Let's, and they were in the mood that let's show people something. Let's show them that this is who we are. In that sense, I'm saying. And but I'm also struggling with that how will this and what will happen here? I'm also struggling with this question. So I can't really answer your question fully.
Shwanima has a question. Shwanima has a question.
No, I don't have a question.
Oh.
I have something to say. Actually, an insight out of all the presentations that have happened. So if everybody has asked her, then I will say.
Okay.
I have you given it a topic? We want to show who we are, but show to whom?
That's what I was talking to Dwelta in the morning. So
Oh.
it was about, so the ones on the immediate outside who look down upon, and I'm using this look down upon us in a very, just take it very loosely if you look at that. I'm taking the shame angle. Okay. So somebody like the person in the bank who looks at you in a certain way and talks about it in a certain way. So I'm imagining that sort of an outside.
Could it be also your host family?
It could be. Our family, my
Could
family.
it also be your host family? Because your,
Yeah.
as you said, like your host family actually resents it.
Yeah, that is true. Which is also that is the point now, which I was discussing that day also, that firstly, I belong to Delhi, and secondly, I am in this family that is already so different from the rest of the village, and that doesn't really consider itself to be a part of the room. So that also becomes a very difficult negotiation to do.
Because I would say, Arun, it's to the development sector also.
Yeah.
That it's a slow, trying to turn the wheel the other way around, and it won't turn much, but a little bit of turning the wheel the other way around. Okay?
I think it can have lots of potential to turn because nobody's even bothered for whatever reasons to listen or imagine that there is another imagination.
Yeah.
So to be able to present that imagination through writing, there need not be one way also, depending on who it is. But definitely I think they do have, there seems to be a strong need to work with an audience. Who is actually shaping, and like Ishita also pointed out right, they are shaping and producing and reproducing this identity at all points. So that, for me, that interaction is very interesting. I don't know how and whether it will ever reach that
I would
point.
say in very like if we all agree on this, in what I don't know who are the development sector actors over
Yes.
there in Look Room. Definitely Pradhan is one actor, okay. But there may be few others also. I don't know if they are there.
The bank officer and.
That's what she is saying already.
Yeah.
I'm saying
in addition.
like the bank officer may be influenced much later perhaps. So I think the people closer to us who may find this inspirational
Put a workshop
would
for
be
them.
actually our Pradhan friends.
Put
and other development actors in that area, if all of them can come, this theatre happens, and you do a workshop
That's
with
a
them.
great idea. Let that
You
be
do a
part of
workshop
the
with them,
action
that's part of
research.
your action. That's
Call-
actually one chapter.
That will be great contribution.
Yes, that you work with them also.
And map the, what changes.
Yes, कि देखो ऐसे देख रहे हैं हम लोग सिर्फ victim, सिर्फ Maoist.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant.
No. So let us work with the local actors.
Build the audience into it, because the audience is the
Yes,
subtext
the
there.
audience is important actually.
Focusing only
Can
on
I chip in here? See, you are exploring this word dehat and things associated with it. I remember I have been working on with them, understanding their self-perception. I may not be exploring the word dehat, but the association of their self-perception about what they think about themselves and all. When this discussions were happening, of course influenced by the already lot of water has run under the bridge. So I'm not very sure that how much we would be actually able to capture the spirit of what the rural was. So that's something it's bothering since when I have been hearing about your action research proposal, that because when I started exploring, and the fact the realities are there, I don't know the kind of category of people you are looking there, but my experience was there that the real situation was not availability of proper food even. So that somehow they have related that we don't have food and urbans have food. That is something they used to see, but not the entire urban has food. So they were saying that we are poor. Poor, when I tried to explore, what do you mean by like poor? When you are saying poor and that, what is it that you, so at least we should have proper meal, we have once a month, we have chicken or whatever meal. So they have their own definition of understanding of why they are saying, and the category of people, the host family you are living in, you said it's different. You have to see that which are the families you are reaching out to, because this is a question.
One thing that struck me in all the presentations is that particularly in Bumla, where the students are, I've been thinking about it from yesterday, and I think there's a huge possibility there. See, the ones you're talking, I know where you were, and I have a memory of those women when we were doing those processes. And these are villages now which have attained a level of prosperity.
Bhavya keeps saying
10 years ago,
Jharkhand is
the
rich.
same Bumla.
Orissa is poor.
When Subhakanto was an apprentice, or Rajiv Ranjan was an apprentice and working there like all of them, I've been visiting there from then. From then to now, there's been so much. Now the issues are new, but we are stuck in that practice. No, we are still talking about the old things. Anushka's thing also highlighted that so clearly.
I have not yet completed. What I was saying,
it's a
Minister,
new
was
issue.
that
It's not a hunger issue. It's a
I
pride
know, I was saying that I have not heard, we need to really understand what was the original sense of it. They may have moved, but then obviously they have moved towards already which the mainstream wanted them. Then what is the dehat we are talking about? What is the rural we are talking about? My dilemma is there.
That's the house.
So if they have moved towards prosperity, when I am saying prosperity, what am I associating it with? It is about already the development that has happened the way we wanted it, the mainstream wanted it, lot of economic development, I am telling you. Tomato cultivation se bahut zyada paisa वैसा आया वो, and then Christianity when came there, the influence of church has a lot of influence in that. Education became an important part. So that is what are we saying already the prosperity is. I don't have the true picture of that particular village. I have yet not visited. But I would like you to see that, can you give me something which also captures the wider population, or maybe the beyond the families, which the host families and particular families associate with particular families in village. If your host family is a prosperous family, the families associating with this Didi would be of a separate kind. Those which are not associating, which is the population of women, and what are their sort of idea about this,
But the thing is that my host family is not really a part of
this discussion.
they are not, and they are not willing, and they don't even want to, because they have already marked that separation.
They have separated themselves
already.
out. Yeah.
And the village that I am in right now, again, is not a quote unquote poor village in that sense. So, in that sense, the food as you, and that's an example. That's an example.
Just little example.
But
I'm
I'm
just trying
saying,
to.
yeah, but the thing
Makes
is
sense.
that it's not a place where there's so much of marginalization and deprivation that this cannot happen. Is what I would say, because there's a certain level of self-sufficiency that people have, but yet, even though they have that self-sufficiency, if they're again thinking about, because see, you said that if they've already moved on that level of prosperity, then why would they want to? But then this is not about that Dehat is something old, and now it has to be brought back into focus. It's the way they describe the everyday. So how do I locate that everyday? Even if they have moved on that path to development or progress, if they are still saying Dehat, it means something. Because the development discourse will tell you to say Gramin or Gaon or something else, but then why this? That is what it is. And this village offers that possibility to explore it, because they are not, so these issues, and I'm not saying they're not important issues, but issues like what you said are already, to a sense, have been taken care of.
That means has been taken care of. I'm trying to find out that issues that are, when the exploration of it, if even in the present condition, I'm not able to put across, the sense are different for different women of different categories. Even with that prosperity in the village, you may find if I go to the village with you, then I may be able to help you that there are pockets of differences and quite a huge differences. So any village you take up, there would be these clusters of families which are different in the sense of prosperity also. And that's not just the hunger, it's just that they come up, component. You can think about the women's lives there also. And this, another thing that, this banker's example that triggered in my mind is that this banker, they treat not because they are Dehati in a way. But I have another perspective to it, so I'm not sure that how that example fits in here, because the same women, when become assertive, they respond differently. They respond differently, they treat differently, they will offer chair, they will do whatever it is. How much change in their attitude is because of they देहाती नहीं सोच रहे हैं बोलकर किया है, या उनका उस रूप में वो एक्सेप्टेंस है बिकॉज वो एसर्ट कर पा रही है, पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है फिर भी उसके हिसाब से है. तो क्या फैक्टर है आउटसाइडर का उसमें? तो बैंकर वाला एग्जांपल उतना मुझे वहाँ पे उनका रिएक्शन टू दैट मे बी, हाँ, हमारा देखने का नजरिया जो काम कर रहे हैं वहाँ पर रूरल जब बोल रहे हैं क्या है, ये देख सकते हैं कि अभी भी क्यों काम कर रहे हैं अगर वहाँ पे है इस तरह का बदलाव. So when you are getting very worked up with this workshop and all that idea, I have a sense that idea is very good, but how much people can connect because of what I am trying to present makes that वो जो exploration है वो अगर नहीं इसमें portray हो रहा है, वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा मुझे dilemma है कि क्या आ रहा है. मेरे को मैंने आई एम फीलिंग कि उसमें आएगा फिर वही द गैप बिटवीन व्हाट दे सी, द एजुकेशन का गैप या बेसिक कम्युनिटीज का गैप, कनेक्टिविटी का गैप, ये गैप्स ही अगर आ रहे हैं तो फिर तो वो मूव हो गया. देन दे आर एक्चुअली टॉकिंग इनटू द, इफ सपोज दे सी द सेम लैंग्वेज एज द मेन स्ट्रीम वन, देन दे आर एक्सप्लोरिंग दिस अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ देहात. ठीक है.
a sort of
You
a
don't have to answer.
yeah, no.
Take note.
Yeah. So, like, I think there are exciting works, being done, Nikita, because, when I was reading your proposal and I thought I'd get that reference, but I forgot it. And I think either Zuban or Kali published this very exciting work where in the graphic novel format, and Nivedita and I, like immediately when somebody gifted me a copy of that book, I shared it with Nivedita, and Nivedita, this is an exciting work, we can look through it, think of it differently, where, and your work, resonated in that ways to me, your work exactly lives that, that, and here are the women leaders of this particular village, of this movement, where they're documenting their own stories, and, they're mapping their own journeys. And it's a very interesting production process. So where to mark the difference, I think I'll still go with the word difference, because there, like in graphic novels, we use different technologies, right? But here they use sketch pen. You know that? They use sketch pen. They use the available mediums that exist there, and it increased the production cost of the publishing house immensely.
That's how she's worried about it.
No, and because it's a very interesting this thing, but it speaks somewhere about the commitment.
Yeah.
So, and it also speaks that then the rural and urban is not treated, it's, for lack of a better word, continuum I'm using, but I don't mean it in a difference and then continuum. But but how do you also take into account, because there have been every sort of and I think partition literature has shown us that in extreme times of deprivation, also one of the outlets, and particularly refugee camps, women got together, they sang, they did things, and I think nothing better than the partition literature actually shows us that. And I think fiction, it's a very, maybe it's a realist sort of an approach, but it also gives us a way out. Jane Eyre would not have been Jane Eyre if it was not in a fictional format. And also, like Mill on the Floss would not be Mill on the Floss in that sense. And you can't tell about, a lesbian life without a quilt. And we have amazing references from the from the literary sources to talk about what it is to articulate about our own lives. And I think your work shows us that possibility, at least for me, as a comic literature student, that that what it is to take that literature towards practice. And many of the literary writers go through immense, and I think it's good Amrita gave us a framing of that word practice, because many of the literature writers actually went through deep engagements of practice when they put together it's not easy to write about deprivation without going through archival records. And I remember remember Shahid Amin telling me that please go through the famine records to see when you're arguing sweet is a luxury item, why are you arguing? Because are you trying to argue, and go through the famine records, and he made me go through the famine records to see why sweet was not part of the dole. When in everyday life it's an ubiquitous part of the village life, it doesn't become part of the dole because somebody else is deciding what you should eat and what you should not eat in times of, and I think at least partition literature clearly shows us that. So I take your work as an inspiration to, for in that context.
There's a new genre also coming out with Baby Haldar.
Yeah.
A life is extraordinary.
Yes, and then recently the one in the sex worker was written about her. In fact, I got a copy for us to read. So I know it's not something I would normally. It's only after coming to AUD I think of it as but it opens up to a wider audience. It may not be your main thing, but if it came out as a byproduct, like Saurabh in addition to his thesis is writing a novel. But if it can be something you do separately, and she actually does write, it could open it up in a new way. But of course not
because
instead of a thesis.
And also I think within the thesis, because the diaspora songs, and Prabhu Mahapatra himself, like he refers slightly, and there are other people who is working on the diaspora songs. They tell you about much more about the slavery process, what happened on those high seas, than what archival records will tell us. So, yeah.
So,
No, I'll just stop there.
So we all dream on about your
Yes, there.
It's a very basic question because I'm like not really understanding, and I'll discuss a few things with you outside. It's not.
थोड़ा सा तेज
I'm saying it's a basic question. The question is what, and maybe you want to come to it as you go along. The question is, what do you mean when you say Dehat as praxis? Do you have some sense wherein you say this? Because it's looking like a very, yeah. As of now, what I'm looking at it is basically looking at Dehat as a way of life, how things are, okay? And I'll just quote a few instances, okay? So when people there, so when a woman will tell me, or when she'll generally just talk about, in the midst of a conversation, she'll slide in something like, जितना उगाते हैं उतना खा लेते हैं. So something like a self-sufficient need economy, something like that. Or that one thing can be to look at that people in Dehat are always dirty because they just look dirty. But another way to look at it can also be that we work in the fields. So that's the work we do, so which is why that. So why to sort of bring in, why to put it into that derogatory framework I'm saying. So I'm saying, so when I talk about this, I'm imagining that just to try to come out of this value-laden thing and look at things as the way they are. If that sort of.
And I resonated with you on that day because I felt that counter-narrative coming, especially the driving on the road. Like, देहात में गाड़ी ऐसे चलती है, तुम्हें सीखना पड़ेगा how to drive here. So I was riding in there. So and there was you have to keep on the line. So some car is coming, so you have to keep on the line. You cannot shift. So like who chickens out? That's how Sindhu puts it.
You can even take it as a very romantic understanding. I get that. Like, what I'm saying this is that it's one thing to say Dehat as practice, as the everyday practice of Dehat. And when you say Dehat as praxis, it's something else because praxis and practice are not the same.
actually, I also don't have an answer to this question. And something has to come out of it as we work our way through it. I think Nikita, where we reached that day was only here, that Dehat is not another name. Like rural is an unclean name or a loaded name. It's not a noun. It's not a noun. It's not कि पहले rural बोल जो कल हुआ.
What is question she's saying?
हाँ कल जो हुआ ना education and learning is अब क्या education एक term था अब learning कर दिया term as if or you call disability differently abled. So is it a question of shifting? Is it the question of shifting nomenclature? So Dehat is not another nomenclature. Up to this point was clear to us that when we were discussing. We have reached up to that point. After that we don't know actually. So we are using Dehat as praxis as a kind of a compass for our, so that we don't lapse into Dehat as another name. Then it lapses back into the standard research procedure. कि चल ये बोला ये, मैं ये बोल दिया अब और बढ़िया बोल दिया, ठीक है, और मैंने तो क्रिटिक भी कर दिया कि देखो तुम्हारे रूरल का देहात का अंडरस्टैंडिंग सब प्रॉब्लमेटिक है एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, और मैंने एक अब अच्छा नाम चल अब देहात और ये देहात वो देहात, ठीक. So in that sense, and this I wanted to say after Arun's presentation, but it's okay, is that in that sense, what is it to create, arrive at some understanding of Deva with the women, which is not the paradigmatic understanding of Deva, which is also not an understanding of Deha we have arrived at by some desk work in the university, which is a kind of equation solving. कि देखो तुम्हारा ये था, मेरा ये है, मैं नया नाम दे दिया, and the sciences, not social sciences only, natural sciences also, we are very good at inventing new terms, and then we feel, oh, the new term has done it. Okay. So in that sense, and maybe the theatre, maybe the sitting together, the discussion, writing as Pratik is saying, or rendering graphic something.
I think the confusion was because you've written practice and way of living academic.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But you're saying, I get
Yeah, I mean, it's a well, let's accept it actually.
Yeah.
It's kind of a untheorized, not unthought,
No.
but untheorized cluster, praxis, way of living,
Which is
phenomenology,
interesting because no, it's interesting, and that's why I was asking the question, because then you are making a shift both discursively and in the village in that sense. So we're shifting the discourse from noun to practice. This is Helsing. And it's also what happens in the village through that theatre, through those discussions, is also a shift from looking at Dehat as this to a way of living. Could I just sort of add with this,
In fact, what Ishita is saying is important actually. Good, sorry, huh? Because I want to clinch this. She's saying let us keep it open-ended. Let us just say Dehat is not another fancy name we are giving. Okay. What she was whispering to me, and I'm agreeing with her actually, then we may not build from below. Okay. We may not build from experience. So Dehat is again another cognitive truth. Got it? Where is the experiential moral component in Deha? So I think Ishita is right. Let's keep it open. Huh? Let's say we don't know that very well. Let us arrive somewhere. कहाँ जाएगा क्या पता, लेकिन वहाँ नहीं जाएंगे ये क्लियर है. कहाँ नहीं जाएंगे ये क्लियर है, कहाँ जाएंगे ये क्लियर है. I think ये तो किसी के लिए क्लियर नहीं है. कल पूरा जितने सारे प्रेजेंटेशन हुआ कहाँ जाएंगे क्लियर नहीं. But see, no, where I'm still holding on to my people is this, that क्या नहीं करेंगे थोड़ा सा clarity है, कहाँ जाएंगे clarity नहीं है. It's okay, then it qualifies for me as practice. Then you at least have a critique of what you won't do. And then you don't know where will you go fully, because the transformative future is not fully known. But without that critique, it's not practice. Without that ehsas of difference or a transformed, then it doesn't qualify as practice. So at least all the presentations that have happened since yesterday, at least one point is there. कहाँ नहीं जाएंगे, क्या नहीं करेंगे, क्या करेंगे? I think Ishita is right. Let it be open. Let us not be so decided. Because then we'll be like that only, like a standard research process where we'll be decided कि चलो ये देंगे, अब वापस देंगे. Let's not do that. So then the field is dead. The women are not speaking there. Good.
Just one point I was thinking when Anu started in response, he said that perhaps all of us should or are trying to move towards creating a habitable future. So is Bihar or discussion around Bihar, a discussion around what will be the habitable future for all of us? Because Nikita or some of the women that she is working with are not claiming that this is what it is, but
how will we arrive at something?
Which is why I said it. Finish. Sorry.
So just that perhaps somewhere between praxis and way of living that we are trying to find.
In fact, one of the points that came up in that Sunday discussion was, and which is why I raised the question, it is a work for us. It is not Nikita's work. Okay? Sometimes a work becomes a shared work actually, and all of us have something to say on that. Okay? Which is why, see, Nikita spoke for 10 minutes. We have had a discussion for 55 minutes, tragically. Huh? So, in that sense, all of us have something to say to this. Actually, what came up as a discussion that day on Sunday was that we are always saying the rural has to mine our life. Okay. Is there any possibility that these women come up with a imagination that tells us, my dear, live like this? Okay. And I gave an interesting example actually. The example was Devon. Devon Dev. Okay. Who wants to also, like Deep, find a habitable future for the rural? And what has he done? The example Nikita gave was to create housing. Devon is an agricultural science person. Okay? But he has also created new huts. And some of you visited. You slept in those huts. Okay. So he has created new huts which are neither, got it, urban huts in which we live, Delhi huts, and the village huts. Because the village huts now have become what? After the Indira Gandhi Awas Yojana, we now have 5-inch brick walls for villagers, and it's a completely unlivable house with that asbestos tin roof. Okay. And we think it's a great developmental wonder, right? Now, Devon has neither taken the Delhi house nor the Indira Awas nor the earlier tribal house. In fact, very interesting. Another point. Sorry, I'm taking too much time. In a debate we have had, toilet or open defecation, Devon has not gone for open defecation. He has created a toilet.
Because there are women there.
And his women think women need a toilet. Okay, let's not make romance out of open defecation. Okay? Now see, very interesting. This toilet is a dry toilet. It's a sand toilet. Because he has that ecological thinking. Okay, the waste should not go to waste. It should go back to earth. Okay. So they have created a toilet. It's not an open air toilet. It's covered with palm leaves. So you sit in a toilet which doesn't have walls. It has a commode but palm leaves. Okay, and it doesn't use water. Okay. It's a sand toilet. So in that sense, this is saying something about the future. Okay.
It's an ash.
It's not sand toilet, ash toilet. Yeah. But the original thing we had created was with sand. That is the question. It's not. Can that be a ground for rethinking our lives? We always want to think they have to model their lives according to our lives. Can we model our lives partially according to those lives? But by that, nobody is saying those lives are great. No, that's not the point. That's not the point. So there is a third. One has to look for a third. And Devol's farm is a very interesting example of a third. That they are neither urban nor rural in the classical sense. They are something else. Something else.
Perhaps how do we arrive at something which is habitable?
Yes.
And I think that's the most
Which is where Ishita's point is important, that how do those women speak? Okay. And we are having this discussion, it's not a Nikita's proposal actually, it's a general discussion for all of us actually.
Because all of us in that way
Are struggling with this.
Working on becoming. Everybody's saying.
So, in that sense, the women said, we don't want open air. They had to create a toilet. But they did not create the Prime Minister's toilet. So, you have to think through these steps. Nikita, jump.
One is that you
Last
can
point.
speak with, not point, you can speak with the Ramani Barma. She has certain notion about how this Adivasi life was and should be, and how it has been destroyed and how
Do
it
an
is going
interview
to
of that.
she would be, you would get a very different
Because
perspective.
different perspective.
And it's very interesting. This havens, because she talks about that folk, the
And in the
completely-
GC she was
From
saying all
there
this. Yeah. Both of us were there anyway,
uh,
and I when she spoke. Amazing, amazing speaker.
speak with her. I think if
Do an
you
interview.
वो शिवकांत वगैरह से भी बात करोगे ना, they will put in touch and then you can fix up a time with her, go and meet her.
Shwani had a last.
And it's not, it's also like जो discussion निकिता के होने के बाद में, it's basically about all the proposals that are थोड़ा डर लग रहा है ना इसलिए। Actually, this is coming a lot from Spivak's Can the Subaltern Speak? And where she says that the subaltern cannot speak because there is a structural problem. And I am finding a structural problem in this space. In that sense, when Anu constantly says that you go to the village and bring, it's the sensorial. I am seeing that when, and in that sense, I am seeing that Arpit's film, Gautam's learning, her theatre is very sensorial. उसका जो sensorial context है, वो पकड़ है. And that, and my dance too. And I'm saying the cognitive is important. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm very scared कि वो sensorial क्या यहाँ पे पहुँचता है. और मुझे वो fight लग रही है in this space. That we're still going back to the cognitive every time. And where Spivak is saying that there
No, don't get too displaced and it will feel bad then. No, she's okay. Shwani, carry. Please, don't give too much attention.
Yeah, you were saying that.
So I'm thinking when she says that the subaltern cannot speak, something of the subaltern that we are bringing here is becoming that problem. Can't speak and we can't hear. Like I'm feeling what she's talking about is what does they have generated the way. It is a way of life, but the shame that it is generated. So, and that is I am also feeling कि we are not able to find a link. कि वो theatre क्यों करना चाह रही है, मैं dance क्यों करना चाह रही हूँ. Answer है, we can cognitively give it a very nice form, but being truthful to ourselves, we are not doing it here. And it is because we have sensed something in the village. And I think that is not coming across. Like it's probably we are not able to say it, or it's not being heard, or it's both.
I think we need to take this point seriously. All of us. Because we'll always have a theory platter to defend what we are doing. So we need to like this is
That's very smart. You should say that if you understood everything, then
no.
it's a problem.
Too sure of something. Too sure. And all of us have been a little. Not fully. None of us are fully sure, but all of us have certainty. Okay, Shwani, keep this point alive. It's a point we need to all.
It's as a space.
Yeah.
Which keep